It is part of our commitment toward building better neighborhoods. Our exclusive report uncovers millions of dollars, a cross-country hunt, and two men who've left taxpayers on the hook. On your side, Chief Investigator Ron Regan joins us with what he's found and how we are all paying the price.
Well, Chris, we're talking about two guys who left behind a trail of broken neighborhoods. It includes mystery, greed, and a coast-to-coast search by our investigative team. And many believe those behind the scam were simply cashing in on Cleveland. It's a story that begins with homes like these. This one was bought for $900, but within weeks, it was sold to an investor for $32,000. Angela Racian is another investor.
They collected a lot of the money from investors. They took the money and they ran with it. So it's turned out to be one big scam.
So we followed the money from Cleveland neighborhoods all the way to Southern California.
Millions and millions taken in by this. And how did it all end?
It all ended with pretty much nothing. People were out of the money. The office closed down. Michael Alexander and Mark Tao disappeared, and no properties.
Michael Alexander, convicted of tax fraud in 1997.
My partner and I, Mr. Mark Tao, worked directly with the banks.
And Mark Tao, banned from selling securities in 2003, now were a team buying up 129 homes they claimed were great investments.
We have some very exciting and very interesting, but most importantly, some very lucrative information we're going to share with you tonight.
Well, I was saying that they were collecting $25,000 a person. Alexander
ran seminars like these.
Michael Alexander seemed very credible. He was nicely presented.
Complete with a plan to renovate them.
Even better, we have put together a complete turnkey system whereby you'll be able to take advantage of what we can show you and offer you here this evening.
Rose Reagan's another investor. How did he strike you?
He's a salesman, you know, gregarious, interesting, a little slick.
Still another asked not to be identified.
Very slick presentation, slideshow.
And slick is a good description. When investors learned the real condition of homes they were buying, Alexander and Tao vanished into thin air.
They ended up being really, really dilapidated, condemned properties in the downtown worst areas of the city.
Did that surprise you?
That totally surprised me, because during the presentation, they were showing nice homes.
Their company was called Easy Access Funding. And here at its Newport Beach, California office, we found doors locked, lights out. Meanwhile, hundreds of homes back in Cleveland were now sitting empty, some falling apart from neglect, or worse.
Next you know, we just heard a tremendous explosion.
2 years ago, this Easy Access home exploded. An entire West Side neighborhood nearly destroyed. The home sat vacant and vandalized for 2 full years.
I'm a minister, and all I could say was, God help us.
And records show Easy Access continues to pile up at least $335,000 in potential housing code fines, more than $500,000 in unpaid taxes, and another $32 million in contempt sanctions for failure to appear in housing court.
Defendant is found in contempt of court.
Turns out Alexander has disappeared before. Our investigation found he's really Michael Pedwell. We found his original birth certificate, and that led us here to the coast of North Carolina. And a stunning discovery.
Found was a capsized boat with no one aboard.
25 years ago, Pedwell faked his own death for profit. The Coast Guard recovered his boat, but Pedwell had vanished.
We're supposed to return in about an hour, hour and a half, and failed to return.
It was all a scam. Pedwell later pled guilty to insurance fraud. Years later, he resurfaced as Michael Alexander. And it's here in California where Alexander and Tao began cashing in on Cleveland.
We're supposedly going to be worth, 3 times the amount that you were buying them for.
Palm trees and sun-drenched beaches are a long way from Cuyahoga County's foreclosure crisis. But what we found here in Southern California is something no one has been able to find until now.
Please leave.
I'd like to talk to you about your Easy Access funding, please.
Please leave.
Please, we'd like to talk to you. Hey, take your hands off the camera, please. Well, tomorrow night at 11, you'll see what happened next. And it's costing every taxpayer as vacant homes lead to declining property values, lost revenue in taxes, and increased crime. And of course, you can join the conversation on Twitter at #5Digs. I'm Chief Investigator Ron Regan.
It kills more Ohioans than car crashes. We're talking about drug overdose from prescription painkillers.
Tonight, an exclusive 5 on Your Side investigation reveals why a local doctor is now under investigation. Chief Investigator Ron Regan joins us with what he's uncovered.
Well, Chris, Dr. Adolph Harper Jr. has never been disciplined by the Ohio Medical Board, and he's not been charged with a crime. But we've learned that 2 state agencies are investigating what they call excessive prescribing of narcotics. And it's a huge problem across Ohio that's using your tax dollars. They're among the strongest painkillers on the market, Percocet and oxycodone. But some are winding up on the street, selling for up to $80 for just 1 pill. And according to investigators, prescription drug abuse has become an epidemic in Ohio.
The Board of Pharmacy was initially contacted by the Akron Police Department regarding the prescribing habits of Dr. Harper.
Dr. Harper declined to talk with us, but our investigation found search warrants were issued at Harper's Summit County offices in Akron. Christopher Reed is an investigator with the Ohio Board of Pharmacy.
A search warrant was executed at the office of Dr. Harper at 2569 Romick Road, as well as a storage facility. And on November 2nd of 2011, a second search warrant was also executed at 2172 Romick Road.
And this is one reason why.
The over-excessive prescribing of controlled substances.
These are prescription drug records. We obtained them from the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, the state agency overseeing prescription drugs paid through Medicaid. They show more than $800,000 billed by Dr. Harper over just the last 2 years.
We monitor for things like numbers of prescriptions, who the prescriptions are for.
Ben Johnson is the department's deputy director.
The number of prescriptions being written would be the first red flag. And then also the patients that the doctor was seeing. And because it's an ongoing investigation, I don't want to get into too many specifics, but there were some red flags that we noticed when we looked at who these prescriptions were for and the type of practice this was.
We found Dr. Harper was an OB/GYN here at Barberton Citizens Hospital. The hospital confirmed to News Channel 5 Dr. Harper no longer has privileges, but declined to tell us why. We also found that CareSource, the company managing Ohio's Medicaid program, terminated Dr. Harper last month. Patients now come to his office in this largely vacant strip center in southeast Akron. And last fall, according to police reports, one man was arrested for threatening to shoot up the place.
Akron 911, what's your location? It's a guy in our office threatening to shoot up our office, and we got tears in women in here.
Meanwhile, the overprescribing of painkillers has grown more urgent.
It is our top priority. It's going to continue to be our top priority, and we're aggressively pursuing prescribers that are acting outside of the scope of legitimate medical practice.
And this report by the Ohio Abuse Monitoring Network quotes one drug addict saying, "I can get pills in 10 minutes. I have a few doctors wrapped around my fingers." 4 Ohioans die every day from accidental overdose. Rick is a former addict who successfully fought his addiction.
I mean, for their one ailment, they'd have several doctors. Or they would find a doctor that would overprescribe them, just a vast amount, something it would be just a ridiculous amount.
For example, Connie Lance wants the board to investigate what happened to her daughter. Kimberly was addicted to drugs for years, an addiction her mother believes was fueled by a doctor.
She had the supply.
And she had to get it somewhere.
Right.
And you think you knew where?
Right, and it was so easy. With that Medicare card, go there, it's free, no problem.
Kimberly died last month. The cause is under investigation.
The pill she had anybody else, I think, taking those, they wouldn't be around either.
An attorney for Dr. Harper said his client is fully cooperating with investigators and does not expect to be charged with a crime. But state investigators say their investigation is far from over, and in just the last 10 years, listen to these numbers, accidental overdose from prescription drugs has shot up from 389 a year to more than 1,800 deaths. We'll stay on this story and let you know what happens next. I'm Chief Investigator Ron Regan.
You would never use your own money to pay for services you weren't getting.
But an exclusive 5 on Your Side investigation tonight uncovers how communities all across Ohio were being billed for electricity they never received. On Your Side, Chief Investigator Ron Regan joins us now live with what he's uncovered.
Well, Chris, we found that since last March, some 60 cities and towns across Ohio, including Cleveland, got zapped with a huge electric bill to the tune of $4 million a month, and not enough juice to power a light bulb.
What's poking up through cornfields in southern Illinois is costing cities and towns across Ohio millions of dollars.
My residents are concerned. Are they going to take and raise my utility rates to pay for this? Huh? Is that what they're going to do? And if they're going to do that, that's wrong.
Paynesville Councilman Andy Flocks talking about this, a brand new $5 billion power plant. It's called Prairie State, and 60 cities and towns across Ohio, including Cleveland, are the owners. But our 5 on Your Side investigation found they paid millions for electricity they never got.
Why are we paying this money when we're getting nothing for it? That's what they're concerned about.
Since last March, we found Paynesville has paid more than $100,000 a month. Cleveland, $251,000. And the list goes on. More than $3 million. Brian Cummins is a Cleveland councilman.
As you know, we're looking at $250,000 payments on bond interest as of March with no power contract.
$250,000 a month.
$250,000 a month.
And no power.
And no power.
Turns out the $5 billion power plant wasn't working. Why? We found the answer inside these disclosure documents filed with federal regulators. A failure in fans moving toxic exhaust stopped the plant from starting up. But while producing zero electricity, bond payments used to finance it began last March.
We're getting a good hosing.
Cleveland Councilman Mike Polenzek says council was never even told of the glitch.
So I'm really concerned to hear just what you've said to me. And again, you know, I'm asking myself, who keeps putting us in these deals?
Some cities like Yellow Springs, Ohio, turned down the deal.
The last thing we wanted was dirty energy, expensive, dirty energy.
Because of serious questions like that raised in Paynesville, Cleveland, and scores of other communities throughout Ohio, we came here to Southern Illinois to show you exactly what you bought. But this is as far as we got. Plant officials declined to take us inside.
We just wanted to take a tour of the plant.
Our request was turned down, and this could be why. We found Unit 1 7 months behind schedule. Unit 2 won't be working till the end of the year. Its coal mine next door cited for safety violations. And it's not the first time a coal-fired plant has burned Ohio taxpayers.
A disaster, financial disaster for the city.
2 years ago, another plant was supposed to be built in Meigs County. It was dropped when cost overruns hit more than $1 billion. Even so, Cleveland and cities across Ohio are stuck with the bill.
We're still on the hook for both, Ron. We're still on the hook for $2.7 million, yeah, for Meigs County, and we're still on the hook for interest payments due to Prairie State.
But again, you have to ask yourself, who's advising us to get into these deals? Who's making the decisions?
Is this plan a good deal?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Ivan Henderson is the commissioner of Cleveland Public Power. He strongly supported buying both coal-fired plants. Meanwhile, ratepayers in Cleveland, at least now, are paying more, not less, for electricity from Prairie State.
Now, the cost of electricity, though, from that plant is substantially higher than it is on the open market right now.
At this time, it is.
Correct.
So why would you say it's a good deal?
Because long term, you invest in a power plant long term, this is a 40-year investment. You recognize that the power market is going to move up and down, as it will.
Henderson also serves on the board of AMP, American Municipal Power, the energy supplier that sold Ohio cities on billion-dollar coal plants.
That would seem to be a conflict.
That's obvious. I think it's obvious. It's clear.
How can you represent my interests if you're also representing the interests of an energy supplier?
We are the largest member of AMP, and so our concerns are AMP's concerns.
And Henderson says that being on the board at AMP actually gives Cleveland greater leverage. And he's betting that Prairie State will provide cheaper energy in the years ahead. Even so, some consumer groups say supporting a coal-fired plant for the next 30 years will backfire on ratepayers. Now, you can log on to newsnet5.com right now and check to see what your city or town is spending each month. Live in Cleveland, I'm Chief Investigator Ron Regan.
It is among the most popular cars ever built, but tonight, an exclusive 5 on Your Side investigation has uncovered a potential safety issue. On Your Side, Chief Investigator Ron Regan joining us now live with what he's found. Ron.
Well, Chris, lots of older cars rust, especially in Northeast Ohio. But something other than snow and road salt may be to blame. And Honda owners are stunned to learn what's happening quietly right under their feet.
They're easy to spot. Honda sold more than 1.5 million 1999 through 2002 Accords. But what we found is prompting owners like Tom Heitz.
And I heard a big clunk from the front.
To stop driving.
Do you think this is a safety problem?
Absolutely. That's why it's sitting here. My wife's afraid to drive it.
What could happen?
The engine could fall out, the suspension is already loose.
Here's what Heitz suspects is quietly eating away at his 2000 Accord.
The hose from the air conditioner sticks out about an inch, rubber hose sticks out about an inch directly above the subframe, and the water from your air conditioner drips directly down onto the subframe.
He shot these photos of his car showing what happens next.
Here's a picture right here showing the hose that comes out of the firewall. This is the subframe down here. And this is before the air conditioner runs. This is a picture now with the air conditioner running, and you can see the water on the subframe.
The subframe that holds the car together is rusting through directly below that hose.
This is what it actually looks like from underneath.
That's completely rotted out.
That's completely rotted out, and this is your suspension right here, the main part of your suspension. It's totally pulled loose from the subframe.
And he's not alone. We found 11 similar complaints that began in 2009, filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Passenger side subframes that are unsafe and rusted out, failed inspection, and in dangerous condition that cannot be driven. And we found the very same air conditioner drainage hose was blamed.
Oh, there's no question, but this is a safety concern.
Clarence Ditlow heads up the Center for Auto Safety in Washington, a leading safety watchdog group.
What you have are hundreds of thousands of owners driving the roads on a vehicle that may suffer catastrophic frame failure due to corrosion. And Honda should notify them to inspect the vehicle on their own, and if they find that the subframe is rusting, replace it or get rid of the vehicle.
Chris Wells is a Cleveland mechanic.
He just kept complaining about a bang and a knocking noise.
Who shot this video and posted it on YouTube.
Hey, let's see what happens when we jab with a screwdriver.
It's another rusted subframe.
As you can see, as my accomplice tests the subframe that just came out of this car, I think it's bad. And then I pick up the camera, he just starts poking at it, and it just starts disintegrating.
It's just falling apart.
Falling apart, especially right where they bolt together, front and rear piece.
So we contacted Honda. The company told us it does not see a pattern, and multiple reasons could be to blame. In fact, Honda said its mechanics can't be expected to spot everything, insisting subframe rust is hard to spot. Tom Heitz disagrees. Years of dealer maintenance, he says, should have spotted it.
Nobody
Nobody
sees this?
Nobody sees it. Nobody says anything. it comes as a shock that all of a sudden, from the last oil change to this one, all of a sudden your subframe is rotted out.
So we took Heights Accord to a local garage. Now, I know absolutely nothing about cars or auto mechanics or subframes, but even I can see that's a tremendous amount of rust. Wally Parker's a certified master mechanic with 30 years experience.
The minute we got it up, we spotted this.
And this is it right here.
That's it.
All of that rust.
Yep. And
now, how close to the oil?
The oil filter. The oil filter's right there, and the oil drain plug's right there. So it's
a couple of inches.
Yeah.
And if I were doing a tire rotation,
right next to it there. Anything on the front end on that side, you're going to be able to see it.
It'd be hard to miss.
Yes, definitely.
Even so, the driver's side subframe is rust-free.
And if you go on the other side and look, you'll see that there's not a bit of rust at all over here.
Honda admits it changed the drain hole location in 2003, but insists the drain is incidental, not causal. Did Honda, in your view, have an obligation to alert you of this problem?
Absolutely. That's the reason I contacted News Channel 5.
Someone sooner or later is going to be killed. There's going to be a big product liability lawsuit, and Honda may very well end up paying more in litigation costs than doing what they should do, which is do a recall today.
Well, Honda admits it also received 11 complaints of subframe rust, but it does not believe there's a defect and has not issued a recall or safety bulletins. You can check those complaints out completely on Newsnet5.com. But this isn't the first time that rusted subframes have caused problems for automakers. Chris, we found out that just a few years ago, Toyota voluntarily issued a recall for 110,000 2000 to 2003 Tundras, and they did that voluntarily for similar rust problems, and the Center for Auto Safety says Honda should do the same thing.
And Ryan, I know you're already hearing from viewers who are experiencing this problem.
We are. Before our story even hit the air tonight, when it broke on Newsnet5.com, we started hearing from Honda owners. We want to hear from you. We're going to have that story tomorrow night.
All right.